This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. I am Rajni Jain on behalf of agricultureinformation.com. I'd like to welcome you all to this online meeting. Please take a moment to review the guidelines for this online meeting posted in the chat window. I now request the moderator, Mr. Lakshmipati, to introduce the speaker and start the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajini. Good evening, everyone. I am Lakshmipati and I will be moderating this meeting. Agricultureinformation.com likes to welcome to this meeting Mr. Nilemesh Das, the co-founder and chairperson at CeeBlu Fisheries, an unit of CeeBlu Enterprises, Parganas, West Bengal. Mr. Nilemesh Das will be speaking on the topic Diagnostic Approaches in Aquaculture Practices. I now request the speaker to begin.
Good evening, all. Am I audible?
If you are audible, please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, all. Thank you to Agriculture Information for providing me this opportunity to present myself among these many farmers or students in a national platform. Thank you. Today I will be covering.
Can you come on the camera also, if it is possible? Sorry for interrupting. Can you come on the camera also, please?
Okay.
We don't see your camera.
Maybe due to network, this is fluctuating. My camera option is on.
Now is here all clear. You can go ahead.
Okay. Today I will be covering a wide topic. So from very beginning I must tell it's not possible to cover very pinpoint of this topic in this 1 hour lecture or like that. But still, I will try to cover the main points or main drudgeries faced by fishermen or fish farmers while doing their cultures or harvesting. So my topic is diagnostic approaches in aquaculture practices. So in today's world, aquaculture is growing by leaps and bounds and is one of the world's fastest growing industries in food production. Unlike other terrestrial farms, farm animals and plants, aquatic animals require more attention in order to monitor their health. We cannot see them directly. What we have to do, we have to judge the water to see their condition. So they live in a complex and dynamic environment and are not readily visible except under tank holding conditions or like that. Similarly, feed consumption and mortalities are also equally well hidden under the water. So the problems faced by the aquatic animals are also species and system specific. The complexity of the aquatic systems makes it difficult to understand for regular people or even the researchers or scientists or professionals to understand the difference between health, suboptimal performances and diseases. The range of diseases found in aquaculture is one among the major problems faced by aquaculturists all over the world. Diseases in aquaculture are caused by the outcome of a series of linked events involving the interactions between the host, the environment, the presence of the pathogen, what's not. Environment includes not only the water and its components like DO, pH, temperature, etc., but also the kind of management practices. That's what I will be stressing upon. That is the kind of management practices, that is handling, drug treatments, management, transport procedures, etc. Okay, so it should be understood that hiding or denying the health problems can be as destructive to aquatic animals as it is elsewhere. Like presently, like we all are facing this pandemic of corona, the same can happen if not well managed in aquatic systems too. So that was just a synopsis or the gist of what I will be focusing upon. Now, are my slides moving?
No, your slides are not moving.
Okay.
You're on the first slide itself.
Okay.
Yes, now we are seeing the second slide.
Okay. So like aquaculture involves a large number of species, like just a minute. Aquaculture involves a large number of species, more than 580 to be specific, the number of species, like finfish and shellfish to be very broad, and under the finfish, the freshwater, saltwater, whatnot categories. So today's lecture is precisely focusing on the finfish, freshwater and somewhat saltwater finfish categories only. I'm sorry, the system is slow when it to. Okay. Like the global aquaculture, the growth in the last decade is more than 6%, and the projected score that I will be sharing, the global data, the projected score is much more in the coming decades. Okay, though that's the billion export value in the last decades, and the Indian seafood export has also leaped the bounds. So compared to other Southeast Asian countries, India stands in third position in terms of the projected projections from 2010 to 2030, and in the next 30 years span, it will be increasing more than 60% to 98%. So the potency of this sector is a lucrative thing, but what needs is the proper management tactics. And with the massive production scale, what comes as a hindrance is the disease problem. Okay, so in the 2017 goal survey also, the issues and the challenges faced by the shrimp aquaculture is both in Latin America, in Asia, and in all countries. Disease tops the list in all these survey reports. So what actually causes the disease? So there's a fine balance between the host, the environment, and the pathogen. The more the susceptible the host is, the pathogen are more prone to attack them, and the environment being conducive will add to the boosting of the effect, thus resulting in a diseased condition. Once this fine balance is broken in any of the three cones, disease is bound to occur. So the stress and disease, what actually the difference between by disease, we can say it's a biological system. The disease, abnormal condition characterized by gradual degeneration, inability, normal physical conditions at normal levels. But what actually propounds this disease condition as the stress and the stressors, the stress factors. So the stress factors can be many, like precisely I have divided in 4 categories: the physical ones, the biological ones, the chemical ones, and the procedural ones. Under the biological ones, the population density, other fish species, the microorganism, and the macroorganisms that play that come into role in the aquaculture practices. Under the chemicals are the water quality, pollution, diet composition, the waste those are eliminated, those come into play. Under the physical conditions are the temperature, light, sound, these come into play in inducing a stress factor among the fish culture. And the procedural part, a very important part and least considered, that is the handling, the transport, the treatment with the chemicals, and the subsidiary effects of the procedures. See the significance of fish disease to aquaculture. See the change in the production, see the growth rate of curve, growth curve. In the first production, that's the production without disease. The input of the feed level, that's the cost, that's the tons of fish, that is output. In the next category, when the production is compared with the production with disease and with without diseases, the input cost has increased, but the production has remained the same. So when the disease are properly managed, in the third graph, see the input costs are negligible, but the production have increased. So that's the extra inputs required. That's the potential savings if disease are controlled. So disease. it doesn't occur in a single one fine day. Out of the blue moon, it won't be occurring one fine day. So there's a course of the occurrence of disease. So diseases can be categorized as follows. Like from the first 24 hours, it can be peracute. In the next 72 hours, it can be termed as acute, depending on the severity of the infection that the host has been infected with. Next to the 7 days, it is subacute, and if it prolongs or continues for more than 7 days, it turns into a chronic one. Okay, so disease, there are some manifestation differences. All the diseases cannot be seen directly or cannot be seen so easily. So those are classified as clinical and subclinical ones. The clinical ones are the diseases that show a clear-cut symptoms. It's easier for us to judge or to diagnose the clinically infected diseases, but the tougher ones comes with the subclinical one. That is, they do not show any direct symptoms or they are asymptomatic. Just in our case, in the COVID symptoms, the asymptomatics are more virulent ones than the symptomatic ones. So what are the clinical signs of sick or stressed fish? We can classify them in behavioral and appearance changes. Like there will be sheer loss of feed intake, off feed, loss of appetite, followed by lethargy and the isolation from the rest of the group. Then opercular flaring. The opercular movements are abnormal. Respiratory rate changes, gasping at the surfaces, clamped fins, flashing, equilibrium disturbances like erratic swimming, head downs, stand ups. These are the erratic equilibrium disturbances frequently observed. So I will be showing some pictures afterwards. And about the appearance changes, there may be skin lesions, there may be nodules, spots, redness, ulcers, necrosis. There will be scale loss. There may be scale loss. Changes in color, either dark in color or pale coloration, ascites, that is dropsy, accumulation of fluid in the peritoneum cavity, followed by improper buoyancy, that is a loss in its equilibrium results in improper buoyancy, then followed by death. So these are the gross external signs that are easily observed, or that helps the farmer or the caretaker to judge whether the fish is diseased one or not. Remember, without proper judgment or without proper identification, diagnosis or proper diagnosis is not possible. So these are a few schematic things I have mentioned. For the eye damages, the Yersinia streptococcus are the tentative or the that can be said a tentative or the probable infectious agents. These are all bacterial agents that I have mentioned. Most of them are these are bacterial agents only. So if these external signs are seen, so these agents are the probable ones. I'm not saying these will be the confirmatory ones, but these are the probable agents responsible for such change external signs. Like for the eye damages, it's Yersinia and Streptococcus. For fin rot, it's Aeromonas for shear shot. Then saddleback, that is Flexibacteria, like tail rot, protruding vent, hemorrhagic vent. These are the bacterial strains chiefly responsible for these sort of gross external lesions. These are some of the bacterial as well as virus and parasitic agents responsible for similar external lesions. So these are the signs of a diseased fish, particularly seeing that the fish, as I said, total loss of appetite or total stop in the feeding process. The fish do not feed. There is an erratic swimming or lethargic swimming, and they will be trying to seclude themselves from the rest of the shoal. Next is excessive mucus production. I have supplemented with pictures. Then fluid-filled body cavities, what I said as ascites, followed by necrosis. That is the dead tissues or the termination apoptosis of the tissues, followed by eroded fins, swollen kidney and liver, inflamed internal organs, distorted spleens, hepatomegaly. These are the things, those are seen post-mortem. Then followed by exophthalmia, that is the protruding eyes. followed by these hemorrhages, septicemic hemorrhages, then the discoloration of gills, as I said, brown gills, dark in color, then followed by pale gills, eroded gills, excess mucus content in the gills. These are the common signs of the sick disease, sick fishes. So these are the concerns of disease in aquaculture. In extensive and semi-intensive, the major concerns are somewhat similar, but especially in intensive culture, the main thing that comes into play is the overcrowding and the competition among them. That leads to the onset of many diseases if not BMPs are followed. Like for crowding and competition, competition for food, space, and mates, that results actually in the easy and extensive proliferation of the causative agent. Let it be bacteria, let it be virus, let it be parasites. The causative agents gets an easy medium and a crowded place for easy and rampant infection communication. Apart from the microbial or the biotic agents, there are certain abiotic factors responsible. Those are the environmental factors responsible for the disease onset or occurrence. First will be the temperature. More diseases generally occur during this time, that is the onset of the winter. Cloudy sky, reduced temperature, reduced sunlight, that results in the reduced metabolism, fish metabolism, and in turn immunity. If the fish stops taking feed due to the reduction or the fall in temperature, it immediately affects its digestion or the feed intake capacity, resulting in a decreased fish metabolism. Like for example, Pangasius, a very well-known fish, is a highly cultured fishes span India. The main problem faced by this species is that is the temperature factor. Once the temperature goes down below 22 degree like that, the fish it stops feeding, followed by a series of bacterial and parasitic attacks upon the species. Then followed by dissolved oxygen. It depends species specific, that is species variation. Species like tilapia, ompok, this required higher dissolved oxygen compared to the catfishes or the perches, and it depends on the age variation also. There are certain chronic stages, sudden death after rain due to changes in the pH, like that. Then followed by toxic gases, that is unionized ammonia, H2S, methane. These literally stress the fish or cause mortality even more than other biotic factors. That is, more viral and more bacterial disease are boosted or they are encouraged under these toxic conditions. Then comes the pollution. The pollution can be organic matter load, especially the amino acids. We genuinely try to feed them high protein rich pellet feeds, but the result is that the unionized ammonia that is formed, that creates, the more the protein content in the feed, more would be the nitrogenous waste content generated in the water, and the organic loads eventually increase thereafter. Followed by amino acid accumulation, enhancing the pathogenic population. There are sewage disposal, continuous and excessive feeding, and no water exchange. These even leads to diseases like Flavobacterium and red diseases. Dropsy, by the way, this is a very common disease in good water also. Okay. Then pond drying, breakdown of the organic matter using potassium permanganate. These two leads to other stress factors. So the diseases can be basically divided into two categories. One is the infectious one. Infectious means though the causative agents are the biotic ones. Those are bacterial, can be bacterial, fungal, viral, and parasites. And under the non-infectious diseases, which do not eventually communicate or transmit from one shoal to another, those come under four subcategories, like nutritional diseases, that is inadequacy in diet. Then the environmental diseases, just now I have explained, that is the water gases, improper temperature, water quality parameters. Then followed by chemical diseases, that is the contaminants, the pollutants, those are the pesticides, heavy metal, insecticides. Followed by physiological diseases, that is organ malfunctioning from sudden changes. These do come under nutritional diseases as well. So now focusing on the common bacterial diseases. Okay, So Aeromonas, Pseudomonas, Flavobacterium, and Edwarsiella. These 4 bacterial strains, I'm not specifying these are the only strains. These 4 are very common and very rampant for creating devastative or extensive bacterial diseases or pandemics among in the aquaculture system. Especially about tilapia, a very famously cultured species in cage cultures in reservoirs, particularly pan-India. The bacterial disease is streptococcosis. So the major symptoms or the signs, those are the head up and the head down, that is erratic swimming of the fish, followed by lesions on the bulging eyes, then a spinal curvature, and followed by excessive mucus secretion. These eventually lead to successive, gradual, unstoppable mortality in the entire tilapia culture. These are few pictorial guidances which I have put here so that the listeners or the farmers, or though they are benefited in identifying the changes or the signs during their own culture or farms. These are the hemorrhagic eyes, cloudy eyes, popped out eyes, opaque eyes, collapsed eyes, missing eye. These are the ocular or the opercular lesions. Followed by the body and the fin lesions are these one, the hemorrhages and the anal fin portion throughout the body, in the tail fin portion. These are the chief lesions. These are the diagnostics. These are the disease signs which help in proper diagnosis of the disease. Now talking about the winter diseases of fish. The flavobacteriosis tops the list. Under that comes the bacterial gill disease. The basic behavioral signs that this disease show are the lethargy, loss of appetite, gasping for at the top of the water, then sluggish response. Mortality will be quick. The mortality will be quick, and it will increase in the succeeding hours and days if left untreated. And the gross signs are the gill filaments will be pale and swollen to the extent of the pictures I have provided. The dorsal ends of the opercular will be flared, dark body coloration, then followed by congested eyes, necrotic gills. These are the common symptoms of BGD, bacterial gill disease. Then moving over to the columnaries one, it is actually caused by a gram-negative bacterium, that is Flavobacterium columnari. Columnaries is one of the oldest known warm water fish disease. It can also affect some cold water disease, fishes also. Ubiquitous distribution in freshwater environments. Columnaries is one of the most important bacterial disease of channel catfish, that is Ictalurus punctatus, commercially raised in US as well. In India also, this columnaries is very prevalent in Pangasius, followed by mortality that range from 10 to even 100% depending on the temperature. As I have already mentioned, dropping in the temperature may result in the full mortality of the entire lot. Then columnaries disease, these are also known by other names like caudal peduncle disease, white gill disease. These are other names to this columnaries disease. Followed by flavobacteriosis. These diseases in fish are caused by multiple bacterial species within the family of Flavobacteriaceae. They are responsible for devastative losses in wild and farm fishes. So these organisms have a high range of virulence and have been known as opportunistic pathogens of the fish. Then Chrysobacteriosis. These are caused by Chrysobacterium. These are non-motile, gram-negative straight rods. Okay. The colonies that range from pale to bright golden urine color due to the presence of non-diffusible flexirubin type pigment. And the clinical signs chiefly, the clinical signs are white patches on gills, tail rot, skin discoloration, scale loss, skin peeling, emaciation, followed by inflamed kidneys. So these are the clinical signs I will be mentioning. These are the clinical signs commonly observed. The first one we can say as unilateral exophthalmic and periolicar hemorrhage, that the arrow one. then pallor and multifocal hemorrhage, then a deep hemorrhagic ulceration in the ventral musculature, followed by in the D1, that is the intracranial hemorrhage anterior to the optic lobes, followed by multifocal ulceration present on the trunk region, then severe echomatic hemorrhage, followed by hemorrhage within the cranium, okay, the cranium portion, the head portion, followed by intracranial perinasal hemorrhage from the cranial portion to the nasal portion. The intracranial perinasal hemorrhage is also very much prevalent. Flectobacillosis, here I have mentioned, these are the tail rot, scale loss, peel skin, these are common among them. The mycobacteriosis, there also the mycobacteria infecting fish are very infective to humans as well. The potential for zoonotic infection presents an additional challenge. The humans, these are human virulent as well. The mycobacteria infecting fishes also include zoonotic pathogens that can cause protracted illness, especially in immunocompromised individuals. Mycobacteriosis in fish was first described in carp, that is common carp, from water potentially contaminated with mycobacterium. So the external clinical signs again involve skin loss and dermal ulcerations, pigmentary changes, abnormal behavior, spinal defects, emaciation signs, and the gross internal changes post-mortem include enlargement of the spleen, the kidney, and the liver. The fragmentation of spleen is very common. Characteristic gray or white nodules in the internal organs. Then followed by acute disease is occasionally observed in association with high bacterial load. And the last one is the mixed bacterial infection, a very tougher one, or the tougher disease for the aquaculture is to maintain or to diagnose or to treat. Mixed infection is very common, very common in winter. The commonly reported bacterial diseases in India are hemorrhagic septicemia, bacterial gill disease, columnaries disease, and abdominal dropsy. When these all come into play simultaneously, in most of the freshwater fish, bacterial infections due to motile aeromonads, especially Aeromonas hydrophila and Pseudomonas, which I have already categorized in my earlier slides, are very common. Like Aeromonas, that is ubiquitous in all freshwater environments. So, these are the lesions, are the hemorrhages commonly seen. Now moving to the fungal disease, those are the bacterial diseases I have grossly explained. Now moving to the fungal one. So these three, that is saprolagniasis, branchiomycosis, and ichthyoponiasis, these are the three major individual diseases commonly prevalent as fungal diseases in aquaculture. So starting with saprolagniasis, in freshwater ornamental fishes, this is caused by generally saprolagnia. The fungi responsible for this disease are secondary pathogens, and lesions are commonly seen after handling and after many traumatic damage to the skin, in crowded conditions and in conjunction with pollution or excessive viral or bacterial conditions. The major or the common treatments those are undertaken for saprolagniasis are KMNO4 treatment. The doses are near about 1 gram per 100 liter of water for 1 hour bath treatment, followed by NaCl treatment is there, copper sulfate treatment is there, malachite green treatment is there, though malachite green is sort of banned in India due to its carcinogenic nature, carcinogenic effect. But yes, this is a matter of regret to say that till date malachite green is prevalently practiced or used in almost every aquaculture farms. So the doses are very lesser, that is 1 to 3 ppm bath treatment for 1 hour, but the fisherman or the farmer undertaking this treatment must take precautions for himself before resorting to this treatment. Then coming to branchiomycosis, actually this is caused by two species, branchiomyces, that the strains are different, sanguinis and demigrans. These are the two strains responsible for branchiomycosis. These are common in densely stocked ponds or tanks when there is abundance of phytoplanktons and organic matter. These generally encouraged or bloom in such conditions. Affected fish, they usually show respiratory distress due to gill necrosis, of course. The gills become pale and the gray regions are seen. Common red patches are seen throughout the body, and hyperplasia, fusion of gill lamellae, massive necrosis. These are very common. Again, bath treatment of CuSO4, BKC, benzalkonium chloride, that is 1 to 4 ppm. This kills all the secondary pathogens present on the water body, and the disinfecting the pond bottom with quicklime. These are common practices practiced. The next, moving to ichthyophoniasis. Here the disease is also known as sandpaper effect. Okay, the infection is evident actually due to the roughened skin texture occurring principally on the lateroventral tail region. These are usually black in color, approximately 1 millimeter in diameter, can be seen under a simple microscope. The clinical signs are numerous, small, spherical nodules that appear in the internal organs, especially in the liver of the affected fish. So granulomatous inflammation on the granules, the proliferation from the affected tissues, then abdominal swelling, hepatomegaly, ascites. These are common symptoms or clinical signs. Again, the treatment is calcium hypochlorite and malachite green. Malachite green is very 0.5 ppm in the water for at least 20 to 30 minutes gives good result. These are like different fungal diseases. This mouth fungus in firemouth, white fungus growth. Now coming to another devastating disease, that is epizootic ulcerative syndrome, EUS. These two had wreaked havoc in the 90s throughout the Asia Pacific region. So that's why I have shown the geographical locations where the disease had played havoc. So EUS is reportedly disease caused by oomycete fungus, that is Aphanomyces. It has been reported in many species of freshwater and estuarine fishes, as well as in ornamental and edible fishes. Tilapia seems to be resistant from this. So the center is typically red with a white margin. Lesions are characterized by deep ulcer that may extend into the visceral cavity. Invasive non-septate hyphae may be visible on a wet mount histologically, often accompanied by granulomatous tissue response or alterations. These are a few EUS affected fish species. These are the necrotic ulcerations in farmed Indian major IMCs, then snakeheads, posterior body completely eroded by fungus. Necrosis and erosion of the soft hard tissues in advanced EUS, then the early lesions in the snakehead. These are the cutaneous bacterial infection that follows EUS as a secondary bacterial infections. Then followed by this in gourami fish, the ulcers caused by disease unrelated to EUS, but EUS results in shear loss or shear down of immunity of the fish, resulting in these secondary infections, bacterial infections. So again, the EUS affected rohu, then EUS affected sand whiting, Silogociliata. Now moving to some common parasitic infections in fishes. As I have already said, there are many diseases, many causative agents, but it's not possible to go in details of all. So I will be focusing on the major disease causing agents. Now coming to the parasitic ones, are white spores on gills. These are the Myxovolidae family of specifically Myxovolus or Thelohannulus. These are mostly prevalent or seen with even with naked eyes on the gill filaments, forming small nodules, white nodules on the fin, the dorsal fins, the pectoral fins. The first picture shows that this is a myxobolus infection in the gills of Katla. See, the nodules are very large, and these are very commonly or very easily observed under naked eyes. And the fish mainly dies of respiratory or the breathing problem as the gills get clogged. The blood circulation is ruptured due to the presence of those nodules. This is a Lernia infestation. It's a hookworm. The common name is hookworm. The worm that clings to the surface, the peritoneal surface of the host, and and draws the nutrition from it. And as soon as the host dies, the worm gets out of the body. This is a very common Argillus infestation on the body surface of Katla. These are crustaceans those are again seen with our naked eyes. The mucosal content of the fish, and the fish senses a feeling of itching followed by descaling and the puffedness of the skins beneath the scales. These are the nematode infections in Zenentodon cancella. Metasarcoria of isoparoxes. These are the trematodes and the nematodes. Those are mostly responsible for a wide variety of parasitic disease, mostly in catfishes. So this is a diagram summarizing the method of preventing the entry of infectious agents in the farm. So the major things that come into play is the fish tanks. Those must be sterilized properly. The fish ponds must be disinfected. The water supply must be checked. That is, the tube well water or the submersible water may be used. The farm workers, they must be sanitized and disinfected. They are a major source for the contamination of the diseases or the pathogens in the farms. Followed by the farm visitors. They should be disinfected and sanitized. Then the birds and mammals, the wild fish, or the equipments. These two, the equipments must be sterilized, and the mammals or the birds or the wild fishes, they must be avoided, because in many cases of parasitic diseases especially, they act as the primary host. From their droppings, the parasite, the infective stages of the parasite comes into the contact of the water body, and eventually the fish get affected. So these are the fish health management practices, the general health management practices. The good quality of water should be maintained. Environmental parameters should be within limit. Avoid overfeeding or over manuring. Avoid overcrowding. Segregate the infected fishes. So these are the farm management practices. Chemotherapy, like if infected and if properly diagnosed, then antibiotics would be used against the bacterial pathogens, antifungicide or antiparasitic diseases. Thereafter, vaccination can be carried out wherever possible. Nutritional management, that is, probiotics and prebiotics or immunostimulants can be used more rather than the chemotherapy or the antibiotics, as that creates a resistance. In the past 2 days only, from 18th to 24th of November, we followed antimicrobial resistance week. So that was the awareness. Grow awareness and stop resistance. That was the slogan for this year from WHO. So this probiotics and prebiotics and immunostimulants must be encouraged. Then recent methods like phage therapy, bacteriocin, the RNAi techniques. These are the genetically modulated techniques. Prevention. The ultimate way to stop an outbreak is to prevent it. That again, prevention is better than cure always. Prevent stressful situations like proper stocking, proper management practices, ideal water treatment. This ultimately reduces the chances of the outbreak of diseases. So the preventive measures are this: immunization, feed quality, reduction in the density of stocking, then reducing the stress factors, dietary supplements along with the feed, early application of antimicrobials if detected, then the water quality parameters always play the crucial role. The major steps in disease investigation for making diagnosis, this is a very decision making step, that is passive data and information. That's the step one, that is everyday data maintenance would be required. That literally helps in the management in long run. Then planning with interdisciplinary group of experts, the middlemen, the self-proclaimed trainers, they are again playing as a major threat to the aquaculture or rather any health sectors. With improper knowledge or limited knowledge, they come into the forefront, and as a result the farmers are the main sufferers. Then active data collection during the onset or during the pondering of the disease, active data collection should be carried out. Then clinical physical examination of host and its environment, the examinations of the host, the blood parameters or rather the behavior of the abnormal changes, these must be taken into account, and again the water parameters should be taken into account. Then collection of environmental and biological samples, if doubted, these samples may be collected and may be sent to the nearby governmental or non-governmental authorized laboratory for proper analysis. Then followed by that there will be confirmatory diagnosis with correlation from step 1 to 6, what I have and discussed just now, supported by recommendation. These are the simplified ways to categorize the diagnosis. So for the disease, now coming to the treatment part, so these are the basic tactics those are followed, that is the dipping, immersing the fish in concentrated medication or chemicals, followed by feeding using medicated feed, antibiotics or other drugs smeared with the feed, those are kept, those are fed. Bathing similar to dipping but less concentrated and for a longer period of time, followed by injecting. This is a less feasible one as the farmers are not much acquainted with this, and only this is possible for a large fish that can be easily held. Followed by indefinite treatment methods like low dose of medication added to tank or pond, sanitizers added. These also aid to disease treatment protocols. Now the treatment is the chemotherapy, as I have already mentioned, the giving drugs, then antibiotherapy, followed by immunotherapy and probiotics. So, above all these things, what needs to be focused upon is the general health management protocols that today in today's date also under Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana or the central government or state government schemes, best management practices are the things those are encouraged in all the aquaculture sectors. Let it be ponds, let it be cages, let it be pens, let it be hatcheries. Under this, that again mentioning good quality waters, environmental parameters within limit, overfeeding and over manuring should be avoided, overcrowding would be avoided, segregate the infected fish, control the entrance of wild fishes from natural environment or other water bodies. Then fishing appliances to be regularly disinfected and dried before use. Do not use the same nets in all the ponds. The net infect the ponds at last. Then fish from other farms and exotic fishes must be quarantined for at least 2 to 3 weeks before mixing with existing stock, and treat the infected as well as the healthy fish as directed. So these are few remedial measures, that is potassium permanganate in pond, bath treatment of the fish with 5 ppm of potassium permanganate. These are the common remedial measures. Bath treatment with common salt, antibiotic use, though these are the last option in case of bacterial disease, but some antibiotics like oxytetracycline, enrofloxacin, these are very rampant or prevalently used in aquaculture. And then for parasitic diseases, bath treatment with formalin or for other chemical sanitizers are recommended. Again, there's use of Cefax in case of EUS. This is a very effective drug against EUS. Now coming to antibiotics, what actually antibiotics do? Why does professionals or doctors abstain from using antibiotics in one go? Actually, antibiotics kill all bacteria present in the water, sediment, or in the fish, thereby reducing bacterial load and control the bacterial disease. They are effective against viral, fungal, protozoal diseases also. This ampicillin, oxytetracycline, doxycycline, norfloxacin, enrofloxacin, chloramphenicol, these are the commonly and used antibiotics. The beneficial effects of antibiotics and pesticides on fish are temporary because bacterial and parasitic loads in water soon recovers, reinfecting the fish. Now the pathogens build up and tend to be resistant. That in turn creates this antibiotic resistance. So that's why most antimicrobials or antibiotics are banned. Antibiotics actually kill useful bacteria also present in the water. Antibiotics have a toxicity, that is, they are mutagenic. They damage kidney, just like gentamicin. Blood changes, anemic, suppress the survival mechanism both in fish and in humans. Antibiotics are lifesavers to humans and veterinary animals as well. But residue buildup, that the intake of antibiotics in low doses from treated fishes lead to resistance development by the body's bacteria like gut microflora, and risk of antibiotics resistance development in aquatic environment and onward transmission to soil and eventually to humans. This is an effective antibiotic. An effective antibiotic soon becomes ineffective and useless. So most of the antibiotics in aquaculture are banned. So these are the potential risks of commonly used drugs and chemicals in aquacultures. So I have tried to tabulate it. Now moving to the alternatives to antimicrobials, the water quality management, the stocking density, feed input, if these are calculated and these are managed properly, then these act as alternatives to antimicrobials. So similarly, use of immunostimulants like dietary supplements, multivitamins, vitamin C, selenium, zinc, beta glucan, these literally act as a very beneficial supplementary aids in keeping the immunization capacity of the host. Then use of prebiotics like fructooligosaccharides, isomalto oligosaccharides. These two act as a good supplementation against the use of antimicrobials. Then herbal preparations like neem, tulsi, spirulina, garlic, essential oils, these are very common. Then disease-free stock, good quality seeds, genetically resistant stock, and then promote useful bacteria, that is probiotic technology. And in biofloc technology, that is not yet available on a large scale, that are not yet standardized, I must say. The promotion of the useful bacteria, bacillus group of bacteria, that eventually promotes not only the skin microflora but also the inner, that is the gut microflora of the cultured species. That in turn promotes a good health and good immunization power of the fishes cultured. So these are the probiotics. These are actually live bacteria and are often a part of good commensal bacteria that confer health benefits. So like commonly used probiotics are lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, pediococcus. These are commonly used ones. They completely degrade the organic matter, that is the bacillus one, breakdown of toxic ammonia, nitrosomonas, nitrobacter. These bacteria also come under the probiotic groups. Then, as I have mentioned, improved gut health, immunostimulatory, then disease prevention. So these are the disease prevention measures. That is, first one is the proactive one, that is regular monitoring of the water, larval tanks for bacterial count. These two will add in the preventive measures, that is, we must be aware of our consequences, our practices, so that the chances of use of antibiotics are avoided to a greater extent. Followed by reactive, that is the use of drugs and chemicals. Only after finding definite evidence of bacterial disease, we can opt for antibiotic treatments, and then backed up by data on antibiotic sensitivity of causative agent, that we are using the antibiotic blindly and the bacteria responsible for the disease is totally resistant on that antibiotic. The fish in turn goes resistant against the antibiotic in future use as well. So that must be kept in mind. So these are the antibiotics or pharmacologicals with permissible residue limits. What I have said, there are residue limits in the tissues, in both in the edible tissues and non-edible tissues. So the permissible limits are given over here. So these are the commonly used antibiotics in aquaculture. So these are the 4 Ks. These are the cordial rules for fish disease treatment. These 4 Ks must be kept in mind. That is, know your fish, know your water, know your chemical, and know your disease. If these 4 Ks are common, if these 4 Ks are taken into account, then we can control our diseases to a greater extent without the use of drastic chemicals or creating a resistance among the antibiotics or the drugs. So this is a concept of disease control, that if the defense mechanism of the host is boosted up, then and the environmental factors, that is the water temperature and water quality, these are maintained, then the defense mechanism will surely surplus the pathogenic virulence of either the bacteria, virus, parasite, whatever it is. The host defense mechanism will surpass that, and the disease can be controlled to a greater extent. So that's all I would say. So, and again, the maxim goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So that's all from my side. Hope I have covered a greater part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nilemesh Das, for a detailed presentation and talk. I now request the participants to ask their questions. We'll also be posting the speaker's contact details in the chat window. Now over to the participants. Any questions, participants? I'm having Mr. Michael Fonseca. You have any question? Mr. Arya Sen, Mr. Suraj Sebastian, Mr. Arnav.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mr. Michael, please.
Mr. Das, it was a really very informative speech, talk, and it was really nice. And I like the way you pronounced all the names, the large names, which was very difficult for us to read. It was really nice. And do you have a consultancy where my friend has got a fish business in Danu, so they regularly have problem. Do you have he can take a photograph and send to you? And
yes, just see my last slide, which I am showing just now. For any assistance in inland aquaculture practices, you can contact my CeeBlu Fisheries. Frankly speaking, sir, yes, you can contact me for any disease-related queries. I am a disease expert in aquaculture, working as a research personnel or a scientist in central fisheries as well. So I have been working on these disease aspects pan-India for the last 5 years. And the CeeBlu Fisheries is a farm or is a company run by myself and one of my friends as a partnership farm. So both of us will be striving our best to guide you or to help you in any such problems. So we literally reach out to any people throughout India, just like this agriculture information has reached us. So we literally reach out to any people throughout India. So you are heartily welcome, even to our farms any day if you want to visit. So you are heartily welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Das. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. We don't have any more questions to ask from the participants. And I'd like to thank now the speaker, Mr. Nilemesh Das, on behalf of Agriculture Information, for taking his time to speak with us. I now request the organizer of the meeting, Ms. Rajini Jain, to please close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rajini?
Yes, Mr. Lakshmipati.
Yeah, please close.
Thank you, Mr. Lakshmipati. I'd like to thank the speaker, Mr. Nilemesh Das, for taking the time to talk with us. I also like to thank all the participants for their time. The meeting will now be closed. Have a good and safe weekend.
Thank you. Welcome.